fuck is that thing? I told you weird shit was going on over that airbase. They made a giant fucking mutant baby!
Tonight, folks, we were talking the season premiere of Welcome to Derry. Stay tuned. Everybody, welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. Tonight we're headed back to TV land and we're taking a look at the first episode of the new HBO Max series, Welcome to Derry. I know, like a lot of you, I have been looking forward to this one for a little while. I was a big fan of the It movies that came out not too long ago, and like a lot of you as well, I love the Tim Curry miniseries. So more It is never a bad thing. Tonight we're going to talk that first episode. Let's see if this lives up to the lofty expectations a lot of us have here, exploring more in the world of Derry. But before we get there, of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, no matter where you are tuning in to catch this review. We got a lot of great content up on the channel right now. A lot of really good stuff coming up. I'm going to tell you about at the end of the show as well too. Do not want you to miss out on that, y'all. So hit subscribe, hit follow, no matter where you are tuning in. But let's not waste any more time and dive right on into things. If you have not seen the commercials for the first episode of Welcome to Derry, Welcome to Derry is a prequel series to It that explores the origins of Pennywise and the evil that haunts Derry, Maine. Set in 1962, it follows the story of a family who moves to town right as a child disappears, leading to a series of terrifying events and further revealing how the town's cyclical horrors began. The show expands the mythology of the It universe by delving into the deep history of the town, including earlier victims and the events that set the stage for future encounters. And there it is, y'all. That is Welcome to Derry. Now, of course, as we get through each subsequent episode, that synopsis I give is going to change a little bit, but right now, just kind of setting the stage for what the show as a whole is about. Just like with my movie reviews lately, we're going to focus in on 5 things here from this episode that are either going to make you check it out or make you give it a skip here. So, starting with my first point here, you don't really need to know the movies or the book in order to get into this TV show. With a prequel, whether it's a movie or a TV series, a lot of times the reason for developing these projects is because there's an idea or a character that's been introduced in the first movie, the original movie, whatever you want to call it, that maybe we didn't have enough screen time to explore something that was said or storyline that was brought up, but it's something that fundamentally shapes or changes the characters that we're watching. And so when you make a prequel, it allows you to go back and further explore these ideas, explore these characters, and maybe not have to worry so much about like keeping continuity or a lot of the events that are going around in modern time. With Welcome to Derry, there is material out there for what's happened prior to the events of King's novel, as well as these 2 films that came out not long ago as well too. We know that Pennywise shows up every 27 years to start a new rampage in Derry. And both the books and the films made it very clear there have been multiple times in the past where Pennywise showed up and a massacre of some kind happened in Derry itself. So obviously there's material there to mine into, albeit expand on a lot of what King had written in his original novel, and that we don't really get to see that much on screen in these films. So there was a right chance here to get a prequel as opposed to a sequel here, especially because the movies make it very definitive that Pennywise the Clown was defeated, and there's not really much that way moving forward in that story. So going back is the right way to do this. And on top of that, because there are ties to the original films, but at the same time, this is not something you need to do your homework on. You can still watch this and enjoy this as a newcomer. If anything, seeing the carnage and mayhem here of this first episode is just going to get you intrigued enough to go and check out the films, which I highly recommend here. I love the fact that that was well thought out here, that again, we're going to give you those ties, but at the same time, if you don't have that information, you will still be more than okay to keep on track of what's going on here in this series. My next point, no Pennywise. In this first episode, you are not going to see Bill Skarsgård under the Pennywise the Clown makeup and outfit. And quite honestly, if you're familiar with Skarsgård's career over the last decade or so, and the projects that he's doing right now, as well as the fact that it doesn't matter that it's on HBO Max, this is still TV, that should make a lot of sense. And of course, we're not going to see a lot of Bill Skarsgård in this. But that's not a bad thing. We know that Pennywise the Clown is a shapeshifter and honestly spent so much time tormenting the Losers Club, both as adults and as children, in other guises that weren't just straight up Pennywise the Clown. So it doesn't actually take us out of things to not see that clown all the time. If anything, that serves as a great way to build that tension throughout this season for when we do eventually see Skarsgård show up as the clown, which he absolutely will. But we got to kind of build up to that. And if this first episode is any indication of how they're going to deal with Bill Skarsgård not being in the show all too much, then we're in for a really good time, because that doesn't stop the fact that Pennywise is still utilizing others to get his bidding done, that he can morph into these other kids or these other adults and tell his lies and set up these traps for people who are coming into his web, basically. That is something that is so great about this character that it doesn't require Skarsgård actually being on screen all too much to get the effectiveness of this. I think, honestly, this is one of the very few shortcuts that this series honestly has to be successful here. And you would think that's something that everybody needs to see in order to get into it. But quite honestly, this is a weird circumstance to where more Pennywise might actually hurt the show than it is the way that they're likely going to present it over the season. The giant mutant baby in this one, given this crazy chaotic ending we get at the end of this first episode, y'all, it's only going to get bigger from there, obviously. This series is not protecting anybody that doesn't need to exist in these future films here. And so because of that, I don't need to see the clown more than once or twice, honestly. That'll be great to see Skarsgård when he shows up, but I'm not missing him yet, no matter how good he did here in the role. To my third point, there is a big worry about the focus on the adult story here. Whether we're talking King's original novel, the Tim Curry miniseries, or the two films, I think a lot of people who have seen these various works or various adaptations, they would agree and tell you that when the Losers Club gets to be an adult, the story just isn't as interesting as following them as kids. Not saying it's bad, not saying it's not worth the watch, but it just doesn't hold you the same way that them as children really does. I think part of that is the fact that we're not used to seeing kids so young being in such danger, such vulnerable positions, and King doesn't play with that. Some terrible things happen to members of the Losers Club and like the people around them as well too. And because that story is so strong, there's a worry that even though, like, when we see them as adults and we're dealing with the same characters, that story just doesn't end up playing the same way. As adults, their imaginations aren't as wild. Things aren't as over the top. They're not really battling with their emotions as much as they do when they're kids and going through puberty and all of that. So there's a lot more to focus on and be entertained by with the Losers Club as kids. And let's not forget, the only reason Pennywise was really targeting them as adults is because of the bond that he has with them as kids as well too. He didn't go for a random set of adults here. These are the adult versions of the kids he was chasing at originally that finally managed to do some damage against him. The adults that we're following along here in Welcome to Derry so far does have a tie to the Losers Club. We're looking at Mike Hanlon's grandfather here as he joins a top secret project that we don't know what it is yet, but to be honest, y'all, I think the rumors online are fairly strong here saying that the military is looking for a way to harness Pennywise's power for their own use. That does not entertain me, okay? And I'm gonna give it a chance, because we're only in the first episode. Maybe the writing is gonna convince me otherwise. But we've seen that plot done in so many other films and TV shows, that the military becomes all evil and they want to utilize this power to do something good. Hell, we could talk about Stephen King's The Mist. Remember in The Mist there, the whole idea was that the government, the military, was trying to use portals and dimensions, and they accidentally let all these monsters out. They talk about it both in the movie and in the short story a bit there. So it's not even new for King's own work here. Now, going with that, you could argue that maybe there's a tie there. It's the same people who are working opening dimensions for The Mist are the same ones who are working for it. But either way, it's not a story that really entertains me. And not only that, to my memory, I don't recall that being a part of the book either. Honestly, means this is something truly unique that they're putting together, something truly original here for the lore. And I just wish, if we're going the military route, maybe something a little bit more grounded instead here, because obviously this isn't going to work out well for the military. You're constrained by the plot armor of the movies. And that means we didn't see the military having any kind of involvement in those two films. So whatever they're doing here in Welcome to Derry is clearly not going to work out for them. So it's a problem for me right now going down that storyline with Mike Hanlon's grandfather, because of the fact that it just doesn't seem it really has any place to go that will have any bearing at all on those original films. So maybe it'll surprise me, but as of right now, I think that is heading in a bad path, and that stands out even more given the ending here of the pilot. And speaking of that ending, my fourth point here is that the Muschiettes and writer Jason Fuchs gives us familiar feelings and connections to those It films, only to absolutely use those against us. Just like in It Chapter 1, or the first It film, we start off with a young runaway boy hitchhiking and getting picked up by the wrong family here, and ends up being a victim to Pennywise. Now, in the first film, obviously we saw George Denbrough be Pennywise victim this time around, and that set up the stage of everything that was going to happen. And those are the same tropes that are here as well too. We get introduced to other kids in Derry. We meet Lily, we meet Phil and his sister Susie, we meet Ronnie, who works at the local theater, and we meet Stanley Uris's uncle, Teddy Uris as well too. And again, these kids are really meant to invoke those familiar feelings of the Losers Club in those two It films. But the thing that you have to remember, regardless of the fact that these kids are doing the same thing, they're investigating a death, they've all had encounters with Pennywise, not knowing who it is, what it is, or why it's happening as well, and they all converge only to be attacked. The thing we have to remember here again is that this is a prequel. And nobody had luck against Pennywise until the Losers Club showed up. And that leads very much to the graphic ending here of this pilot, to where all but Lily and Ronnie are killed in a movie theater encountering Pennywise the Clown in the form of a giant mutant baby. And again, using that against all of us, when I think a lot of us, myself included, just took it to heart, like, okay, they're introducing these kids. These are going to be one half of the story we're going to follow throughout the season. The adults will be the other half here. This is clearly the Losers Club of the time frame that we're in. No, folks, we're not getting a Losers Club. We're not getting that at all, because Pennywise got those kids. Like, there's no question about that at all. Shocking ending, and a great way to set us up here for this world, to show us that a lot of terrible things are really about to happen here. And if we are holding on to the safety of anything that happened in It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, you might want to throw that out the window, because unless it is those specific characters showing up, or a relative that has to exist in those films, nobody is safe coming out of this series. And to my last point, Dick Hallorann from The Shining. Now, for those unaware, Chris Chalk, who you might know from Perry Mason, The Newsroom, or more than likely playing Lucius Fox in Gotham, is here in the pilot episode as Dick Hallorann, a character from The Shining. Now, we know this character has the shine. He's very aware of the evils at the Outlook Hotel and tries to help Danny Torrance against Jack when he finally goes crazy. Now, depending on if you're going on the book, if you're going on the movie, Dr. Sleep, there are different endings here for how that all turns out here for him. But this is not exactly something new because Dick Hallorann is actually featured in the It novel. They actually talk about the fact that Hallorann starts up a bar called the Black Spot in Derry that's really for black servicemen, and that bar is eventually burned down, presumably by Pennywise. So Hallorann is somebody who actually does have connection here to the story, but I think for a lot of you, you're like, oh my God, that's the dude from The Shining. What is he doing here? And as a reminder, y'all, King very regularly crosses his works over. So much of his work takes place in Derry, Maine, period, that everybody crosses paths at one point or another, all his various characters. But again, Dick Hallorann was featured in the actual novel. So I'm intrigued to see how they're going to expand on his role. I think most of us are going to pretty accurately presume that his shine is going to come into play for working for the military. Because again, it seems very clear the military is going to try to capture Pennywise to use for their own nefarious desires. But using Dick Hallorann as a part of that because of his mind reading abilities and moving things and having the ability to utilize that maybe against Pennywise as well too. Maybe this will bring him into Pennywise's crosshairs. We don't know for sure, but it is cool to see this certain point of the story get expanded on. And it does actually make me very interested to know whether or not we're gonna have connections to a lot more of King's work that might not have been as overt or maybe not even featured in the King's original novel. Because at this point, why not go for broke if it's not gonna mess anything up at all? So I'm curious to see how that plays out. But ultimately, y'all, I think this is a good continuation of what we've seen in the It story so far. Again, I think that there were a lot of expectations for what this show could do. And after only a pilot, we got a lot of highs in this one that makes me at least very excited for the rest of the season. I think ultimately, though, I am still very, very worried about what's going to happen with the adult story. The fact that Lily and Ronnie survived this first episode gives me hope that we're going to follow them a lot more as we keep on going on. But thus far, that adult storyline is just not catching on to me. Hopefully when Taylor Page gets introduced, which I have to assume is going to be in the second episode, we'll get more of a better handle on what this is going to be like. But I'm curious what y'all thought of this one. You can let me know in the comment section here. I'm going to be following Welcome to Derry weekly here, so you can stay up on what I'm covering here for it. I'm going to try to have these out every Monday night for y'all so we can stay up to date with this. I don't do a good job with TV series. I am fully admitting that there. We're going to try to do better here as we head into 2026. But in case you want to stay up to date with all the horror workings I have coming on my channel, the best bet is to get subscribed to my Linktree, which you can do at linktr.ee/T-Scary-Movie. To get subscribed to my Linktree, that's going to be access to the YouTube page for the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms for the audio-only versions of the show, my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings through the year, my TikTok page for short horror content including movie news, movie reviews, and movie premieres, my Twitch page for horror gaming, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of that, y'all. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, the follow button, no matter where you are tuning in. This week, I'm trying to do a lot for y'all. So we're going to get to the 2-episode season premiere of the Talamasca. We're going to get to Street Trash. We're going to get to the original Toxic Avenger. And if I can get the screening in, we are going to get to Queens of the Dead. So a lot of fun stuff coming. And next week, this is a big one here for it, y'all. Next week, I am going to be talking the Kevin Smith classic Dogma. There's a lot of reasons why I am talking it, but I am stoked to bring that review here to y'all next week, so be on the lookout for that one. I know we're talking Kevin Smith on a horror show, but hey, that's the way it is now, folks. I appreciate y'all tuning in. That's going to do it for me tonight. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.